I've got to do my southern drawl now.
I dig it.
Thank you very much.
That's kind of cute.
Thank
I can do mine right back at you.
Thank you so much.
It's supposed to.
Does this sound sexy?
Oh, what is this?
Down on the bottom right. Yeah, that little box. We're all good?
Oh, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
What?
All right.
Did
Sit
you
up
tell
more?
Jim?
Hey, Jim, we're blinking. Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln logs. Okay.
Pull it down a little bit. I can't see your face.
Pull
There
it.
we
Yo,
go.
you know what? That's a good call because people want to.
They want to see the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I look like a giant Mark Wahlberg. You know, that's what they say.
Nice.
I see it.
You want me to go? Gun? Did you take it? And then Jared looks like Donnie Wahlberg, so it's great. We've got a couple of Wahlbergs, and then you look like Ricky Martin
No, he looks like Scott Hendricks.
and Scott Hendricks.
I'd prefer Scott Hendricks.
You look like
I've
Ricky-
never met him.
you look
nor
like Ricky
seen
Hendricks.
him,
Wait, is that
but I
Scott
would prefer Scott Hendricks.
I like it. All right, so let me do the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Refined Life Podcast. I'm Bigg Vinny. We have some amazing guests today. I'm going to introduce you in just a minute. But first, I want to let you know my partner over here, the one and only Jeff Suter.
Hey.
There he is. Okay. People have said, often told me that he looks like Channing Tatum as well. So nobody's ever said that, but I'm just going to put it out there in the world.
Wow.
All of a sudden, bam, you're G.I. Joe.
Can I dance like him too?
Probably.
Man.
Oh, wait, you did that in at Absinthe in Vegas.
Oh, I did.
You did have to strip. I remember.
did
See,
have
I
to
remember all
strip.
your stories.
I did.
All right, so today we're really blessed, and we actually called a special day to have this podcast because we have my amazing friend all the way from, I guess, New York City is where you reside at most of the time, but this girl is a world traveler. She has done everything from the music business to political side of things to saving people's lives to helping people get out of prison to everything that you can do to raise money for charities in the entire world. And I got to meet her about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and she completely stole my heart and my mind and my thoughts and all that good stuff. But y'all give it up for Miss Consuela Vanderbilt.
Hello.
And she has
Big
the
Vinny.
best outfits. Look at
Oh,
that
no
outfit.
question about that.
Hey.
Like a runway model. And
So
her purse
sweet,
is actually
so-
on her chain.
It is.
Yeah,
It's
see?
my secret little.
The little purse. I love it.
Yes. You can
It's-
fit a
is-
lot in here.
Yeah.
My phone.
Oh, yeah.
my miniature phone. It's good. It's great. Yeah.
And she has brought her really good friend who I've got to have dinner with last night with all these folks, with our buddy Brad Taylor, who you can't see. He's right off camera over here. But in a minute, he's liable to edge into frame.
Yes.
But I got to meet this guy last night. I've known of him for a long time, been a fan of his work. He's a multi-platinum selling songwriter. I think he's won every award you can win. He's worked with artists, everybody that you can think of, from Whitney Houston to Consuela Vanderbilt, so
Oh, that's good.
That was
You
really
still
Oh,
good there?
listen.
you and Whitney, you're on the same level to me.
listen,
Actually, I like you just slightly more than Whitney.
Okay.
You
You know what?
Just know that.
Listen, the brownie points.
Yeah.
The love.
But
Cannot.
The one and only, the infamous, the
yeah, no.
amazing Mr. Keith Thomas. I call him KT because we're
Yes.
from old school back in the day. You know.
Yes.
And so, we brought this special thing together because, A, y'all are amazing humans that have done so much in life, and I want to make sure that we get the message out there for the things you are creating now, the things you're working on, the things you've done in your past are important because that's going to kind of set up your resume. But what I really want to make sure we get out there is the message of all the great things y'all are doing now, the things you're working on now, because I think the things that are in our past, like I said, they're good for conversation pieces, but what are we doing now? So with that being said, Consuelo, I want you to introduce yourself, talk a little about what you got going on and the music, everything from the music to the charity side of things that you're doing.
Oh, Big Vinny, I love you. It's so nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you as well.
Yeah. You look like all of those people, including Ricky Martin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. She's going to make
Yes.
me blush.
Mm-hmm.
You like this?
Hi.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Of course. And the amazing Keith.
Oh,
So I'm in Nashville, one of my favorite places on this planet. Back, the last time I was here, I was actually recording my album. So it's very exciting to be back and regrouping, and I love music, and working with Keith has been an amazing honor. So thank you.
back at you.
So what's happening today? It's the journey back into music, which has been a long time coming and really missing it. I feel like last year I just went through so much that I feel like I have 15 albums inside of me to just write it all out. And coming back to Nashville, just to my heart. So that's the one thing. And my company, Soho Muse, which we're like the LinkedIn for creatives, is really blossoming and just creating a lot of content and work opportunities. And I did an incredible event with Emilio Stefan in September Fashion Week. So we're looking at doing our next one now, and really helping the Latin community, designers, musicians, giving them a chance to elevate themselves. So
See, when you first said Emilio Stefan,
yeah,
I thought you was going to say Emilio Estevez.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
Because I do love some Emilio. And I didn't know
course.
till here lately, that, just in the last little bit, that he's Charlie Sheen's brother.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Really?
Because Charlie never went by Charlie O. Estevez. It went by Charlie Sheen.
That's true, yeah.
And
That's
his
very
dad
true.
went by Martin Sheen, right? Wasn't
Yeah.
Martin Sheen the dad?
So it's just trying to create market confusion, basically.
Yeah, I'm confused
You're like Bigg
already.
Vinny. I'm like, what? What's happening? Why? How? What's happening?
So, I wanted to lead off with that because I want people to see you for you. I think what happens to you a lot of times, because the Vanderbilt name is such a big deal. And I grew up here just outside of Nashville. One of my relatives played for Vanderbilt, the leading scorer, all-time basketball leading scorer there, Mike Rhodes. And I think that name has always been synonymous for everything going on. But I think a lot of times the men in the family get a lot of the praise. And I know it's been important for you to shine a light on the women in the family and what y'all have accomplished and the things that y'all have been a part of, helping the world become a better place. And I think so often, you can get into the news outlets and this and that and all these crazy things, but I want people to hear your story about what you've done and how many great things you've done to help so many people, because I think it's important. I think that's an important message to get out there. Obviously, the music is important because you're freaking awesome when you go listen to music. You're going to love it. It is under Consuelo Constin,
Yes.
C-O-S-T-I-N. So make sure you check her out on that. But I would want to definitely draw attention to what you've done in that world, that you've changed some people's lives and managing some artists now and working with some artists that are doing some great things as well. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Talk to me. Thank you for saying that. It's true. Just, my family has really, I think that people know obviously primarily about the men, and they've obviously, been revolutionary in the things in their forward thinking, I would say, as extraordinary entrepreneurs. But the women in each decade, whether it's Gertrude Vanderbilt, whether it's Consuela Vanderbilt, the Duchess of Marlborough, whether it's Alva, I'm on the board of the Vanderbilt Museum, which I'm very proud of. My grandmother's on the board as well. And one of the tour guides, they take the property so personally, like it's really their own, because whether they bring their children or their grandchildren, and it's been in their legacy and their family, so they talk about the hearts and the stories, which it kind of comes to life, which is so beautiful. But the Gilded Age is really, there's a lot of it that's based on my family that people don't know about. So you're really seeing these women in real life and how prominent they are, but how incredibly knowledgeable, poised, and the way that they give back in philanthropic initiatives. Like Consuela Vanderbilt was one of the biggest suffragette leaders.
Yeah.
Do people know that? No.
I have no clue.
So that is very important to me, because I think that women, especially of today, I think we really need to be celebrated. I think that, 1% of CEO female founders are funded of today. That's not okay. Just not. I get really passionate about it.
Yeah.
Just like creatives don't get paid. It makes me crazy. So
I'm right there with you.
Right? I'm standing
Yeah.
for creatives getting paid, and I'm fighting for people who don't have a voice. And so one of the things in my company is we've been able to actually start acquiring life rights and IP, and then helping on distribution platforms. And Jimmy Dennis, who was on death row for 25.5 years, he was on the front cover of Rolling Stones. He's an amazing musician, and he always wants to be known as a musician, because he is. And he was wrongly convicted and beaten up every single day of his life for 25.5 years. And that man has not only changed so many people's lives, he learned and taught himself the law. He changed 7 laws in Pennsylvania, and he wrote 1,000 songs while he was on death row. So to me, it's again like being able to give voice and to help people that don't necessarily have that. And so that's kind of been my calling, along with ovarian cancer, which is a big thing because my mom passed away from ovarian.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So yeah, that's a little tiny little tidbit.
That's a tiny piece, but those are big important parts, and that's one of the reasons I want you to be able to tell that story on here, because what you're doing with Jimmy, and I want to make sure I know everything. He got off of death row, right? He
did, but he ended up having to take a plea. But he has been declared by multiple judges that he is innocent, which
that's
he
awesome.
is.
That's probably what he wanted more than anything, is just people to know, like, I did not do that.
But he has not received a dime. And because he's still currently on parole, he actually has to pay the state. And that's just, it's inhuman. And the amount of people that he's actually gotten off death row and he's still having to pay. It is a crime within itself. And the justice, our justice system has not served him on any level. And it's not okay. So.
Yeah, and I think, we definitely want to change those things. I look at, a lot of the crimes that people are in jail for that now, my mom's a convicted felon. She got convicted because she was, selling weed.
Wow.
Well, it's pretty much legal everywhere
Crazy.
now.
Right.
That's crazy.
And so, now don't get me wrong, she was growing. She had 7,000 plants and she had a lot. She was farming.
That's a small amount of plants.
And in Tennessee,
really.
And in Tennessee.
How in the world do you get 7,000? I mean, I don't smoke weed. I think it would help me if I did to calm my brain down.
Yeah.
But I'm the most paranoid person. Like, I can't. And that's not a good look for me at all. I'm not doing that.
She-
So how do you get 7,000? What do you do? Where is that?
Fields and acreage,
Like-
they did theirs interesting. They were
And
growing
finding
it. They
and
were
finding.
they were
Crazy.
actually growing on the Mennonites' land because
Okay.
they had permission from the Mennonites. But then when they didn't give the proper cut to the Mennonites said, "Hey, was it TBA? Yeah, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, TBI. There's this random weird plant growing on here. What's going on here?" And then they set up a sting operation and caught them
Come
when they
on.
were coming into their plant. No joke.
Really?
The Amish set us up.
Stop it.
Now I didn't know anything. I was in 7th grade. I didn't even know what was going on, but it was interesting just to hear the stories from my mom's side. And of course, the opposite side is a different thing. But my mom served her time. Now she's a convicted felon, and she served all of her time. Now she has no right to vote, can't carry a firearm, all these other kind of things.
No, it's
Yeah.
All
terrible.
that kind of stuff. So I think that as the reform comes in, a lot of those things will hopefully eventually change because she's 60-year-old woman now who lives in a little kind of half farm, half homestead in Perry County, Tennessee, and
Can she how hard was it for her to reestablish herself, to make a living for herself? Like how?
So the good thing for my mom is that little town we come from is a loving, forgiving town. We come from small town Tennessee where people are going to know what you did wrong, but they're going to try and help you do better. And I think that's a common misconception. Like, oh man, if you're in a small town, everybody's talking about you. Well, they talk about you, but then they're going to also put their hand out and try to pull you back up with them.
That's
Sure.
right.
And I think even like the girl that is kind of the leader of the Chamber of Commerce and everything in our town. I can't remember her exact thing. She's my cousin. Her name's Allison Henson. She was addicted to meth at one point and got in a lot of trouble. And this girl had a 36 on her ACT, perfect score on her ACT, very smart. Just got caught up in the wrong stuff. Got with a boyfriend, kind of led her down a bad path.
Those men.
Men. But
Boyfriends.
You don't want
bad.
You don't want to have to suffer forever. I think once you've served your time, you should be able to come back and be a member of citizen. A regular citizen of America, where you get to have a voting right and you get to have that because you've learned a lot. You
Especially
went through
petty
some stuff.
crimes. I mean, let's be honest, okay? There's different extremes of crimes. I am not for the death penalty by any means. I'm sorry. I stand very strongly about that. But I normally don't talk about politics. But that is one that really
think
is
that's more of just
true to my heart. Just my own
a belief
faith
more than
and
a
belief.
politic.
Yeah.
I think everybody's entitled to that belief. Like you have your reasons for why you don't believe in it. Other people have reasons why they do. But I look at it and I think when you're looking at somebody that's going to go to prison, and you're going to take away their free life.
Sure.
That's the beauty of America, right? We're supposed to be free. We're supposed to have this freedom. If you're going to take away that free life, it has to be 100% proved evidence that you did that crime. If there's a shadow of a doubt, and I know they say without reasonable doubt, like, no, it should be, there has to be no doubt. If you're going to take this guy's life away, put him on death row, 25 years, however long he spent in prison, there has to be no doubt that he did this crime.
Well, and the worst part is that once you are in the system, so the corruption that went behind how his case unfolded between the police officers and the DA, and it just, once you're inside of that system, it is almost impossible to get out.
Yeah.
And that's what's just so awful. It's just horrifying the stories when I first met him. I mean, within 4 minutes, I was hysterically crying. I couldn't. This man changed my life just on a very human level. Because for what he endured, he doesn't play a victim. He's never been a victim. He champions not only himself and his own beliefs, but other people. And so for that, I'm like, God is with you and speaks through his eyes and his soul like nothing I've ever seen. And actually, that's kind of, I would say, the power of music. Like listening to you last night, like you transcended, you took us all on the most amazing journey. I never wanted it to end. I'm like,
She did.
I didn't. I kept going.
She asked me to sing another song. I was like,
like,
are we going to get in
la, la,
trouble?
la.
This is no joke. We was at Kane Prime, and I'm sitting there singing. I'm like, are we interrupting other people's stuff? But the waiter
like, no.
the waiter come up to us as we were walking out and said, hey, just so you know, the people that were outside, they wanted to know your name and your music and stuff because they really enjoyed you singing. I'm like,
See,
well, good.
Look at
I was afraid I was making them mad.
So I was privileged enough to bring my wife down to see him perform Saturday night. Now, with that said, we've seen Vinny perform hundreds of times,
Sure.
at like minimum of 100. But we've never seen Vinny kind of on his own, right? It's we've always had Jared or this person, and he's a brother to me, and I feel like I know him well.
Aww.
But after seeing you perform Saturday night, Autumn and I both left saying, "Wow."
How
Like
beautiful.
we knew Bigg Vinny was fantastic.
I had the same
but
feeling.
Saturday night we were like,
Where's my wallet?
I didn't know the man had that in him.
Wow.
Like it's almost like you don't need the people around you. You just need to do you.
That's so true.
I left Saturday night feeling that way, and I've told many people that since Saturday night. I'm blown away.
I completely agree.
I love
with
you
that.
both, and I appreciate you saying that. I love music. I think when I came to Nashville, it was still in the era of you didn't really care that much about being famous. Like you knew that could be a potential part of it, but
Sure.
you wrote songs because you loved to write songs. You got up and sang because you love to get up and sing. Now there's an addiction of, the crowd going wild and you putting on a show. That adrenaline rush is great, and it can make you feel that way. But for me, it's always just like, man, music, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, but music was my healing factor. It was how I got over the heartbreak. It was how I, tried to run away from the things that happened in my past and all that. And it just gave me an outlet. For me, it was never alcohol. It was never drugs. It was always music and food because I enjoyed the food. But just back to what we were talking about a while ago, because I don't want to get it too much about me. This is about y'all. I got to meet, we spoke at a prison last year. And the part that we did, I can't remember the exact program at that prison, but it was church at prison.
Sure.
And so we got to go in, me and Jared Blake, we got to sing for these guys. So I'm singing for them, and I have no clue what these guys are in for, how long they're in for, or anything else. But we sing, and we get to hang out with them. Of course, they loved it. And we talked about Jesus. We talked about how if we would have got caught, doing some stupid stuff that we did when we were kids, that we could have ended up in jail. If we would have taken the right turn instead of the left turn, we could have ended up in jail.
Sure.
So you're just one decision or one moment away from being in their exact same place. Can't tell you how many, I got in a lot of fights whenever I was younger because, I didn't let nobody talk smack to me. I'd punch them in the face. Well, what happens if you punch them in the face and you accidentally killed them? Because that happens. You hit them, they fall over, their head hits on the side of the curb and they die.
Yeah.
Well, then you're a murderer. So
Did I tell you I was a boxer?
Well, come on with it.
My
Well, but the name like
uppercut-
Consuelo,
Are you scared?
The fact
They
that she can
just-
say my uppercut means
Yeah.
she means
She
it.
means it right.
No, wait, I do. I'm sorry to segue for just 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So my trainer, this is about a year ago, he said, listen, I think we should get you on the circuit. I'm like, what? I'm sorry, what kind of circuit would you like me to get on? Like, what exactly does that entail, right? He goes, well, like, you can really start to get out there and start doing competitions. I'm like, competitions? Really? Like, can you protect my face? Like, I'm like this. Can I do this? Can I just mask?
You need to have it
like,
with a face
please,
mask.
Like face mask. Can one box like this? What happens?
She's like, I can still get concussed, but it's not going to mess up my face.
Oh, it's funny.
Well, I cannot wait to see
Oh
the
my-
boxing. I can't wait to see that.
So
that's
that's
another
the new
thing.
song. That's what we've been writing about.
Oh, okay.
So Peter Amato, do you know that name? He wrote a lot of Leon Rimes' songs.
Probably.
Peter Amato and I were working together many years with Jessica Sutcliffe in LA. I was signed to they had a production company, and he introduced me actually to Nashville. So, like, amazing songwriters. Greg Fia is a dear friend. Pete Salas, like, just
I love Pete.
He's
Pete's
amazing.
my dude.
Pete's fantastic.
People don't realize how much that dude's had in the music
It's
industry and what
insane.
he's done. He's a great talent.
talent.
I've gotten to write with him a couple of times, and man, great bass player, great singer, great songwriter. Like, he can do it all.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you know Chris Bergnes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've known Chris since I first got to town. One of the first people I met when I got here.
See, so it's again,
And Chris is one of those guys that he just does the lyrics.
he does. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he sings or plays or anything else, but man, when he writes a story into a song, it's just, and he says, now, go sing this. Then you got to go sing it. And you're like, golly, man. He puts some big words in there. Sometimes I'm like,
He does.
how am I going to fit this word in there? But then he kind of would like say, you would sing it like this, and he can't really sing, but he'll tell you, and then he'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Well, I don't want to lose track on the part that I was getting to. This kid comes up to me.
Yeah.
After we get done singing, jovial, probably 6'6", probably weighed 400 pounds, big old black dude. Comes walking up to me. We start talking. He's like, man, I just loved you. And he goes, you representing for the big guys? I'm like, I'm just glad you still consider me a big guy, you know. But we start talking. I was like, so I said, how long you got in? He goes, pretty much the rest of my life, 40 years. I'm like, well, how old are you? He said, I'm 22. I said, how long you been in here? He said, I've been here for 2 years. And I'm like, you've been here for 2 years, and you got 40 more to go. So you got 42 years. What did you do? And I was like, I don't even know if I'm supposed to ask that. You know, I don't know the etiquette for it. He goes, well, he's like, you know, I'm in for murder. And I'm like, you just walk up and murder somebody? He's like, well, he goes, I don't really know what happened. He goes, I was 12 years old. I was playing basketball, you know, Southside Chicago with my friends. Next thing you know, I was, you know, this big guy. So they kind of brought me in. You know, next thing you know, I'm in a gang. Then I become kind of the enforcer because I'm the big guy. Said, you know, we get into it with a rival gang and we're having a shootout. All of a sudden the cops come pulling up. He goes, well, everybody else was fast enough to get away, but
You didn't.
you know, 6'5", 6'6", whatever, 400 pounds. He's like, you know, so I got caught and, you know, there was 6 people dead and I had to take the rap for all of it.
Wow.
He goes, I don't know if I actually killed anybody. He's like, but I know I was shooting at people. And I was like, well, I said, you know, did you have any kind of plea bargains? He goes, man, he's like, you can't do that. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, he goes, if you tell on the other people, he's like, then your family's dead. Your mom's dead, your brother's dead, your little sister's dead, your cousin's dead. He's like, there's no telling. You know, you goes, you know, you ever heard the old phrase, and snitches get stitches? He goes, that's a real thing. And I was just mad, and my heart just broke for him because as you're sitting there talking to him, you realize this guy was never supposed to be a killer.
Sure.
He was never supposed to be that. He's going to spend the best years of his life in prison. If he makes it to, you know, 65, 70 years old, he'll get out. Maybe he gets out early. You know, maybe he gets out in his 50s or whatever. But you've missed, you know, your 20s. You've missed the relationship building. You've missed the time that you're really supposed to be building your wealth and doing all this other stuff. And I understand he killed somebody, and he owned up to it, and he was there, and he said it. Maybe he killed somebody. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he never hit anybody. Right. I've shot pistols before. I'm like, crap, I thought I hit something, hit nothing. But I feel bad for him because it's like I know that he's not a guy that's going to go back out there and kill people. Sure. I think there are crazy people in this world that are evil. I think there is evil that if you let them go, they're going to go kill more people. Yeah. I just don't think he's one of them. You know, I think he's a guy that was trying to help his mom feed his brother and sister, got caught up in the crossfire, and, you know, now he's got to spend the rest of his life in jail. So I do think that we got to look at how can we go in and evaluate these criminals that probably are not going to go out there and repeat that. You know, the problem that with it is as soon as you let one go and then they do go out and repeat it, it becomes a bad thing. But a lot of times the reason they repeat is they get back into the gang because they go out, they can't get a job anywhere, they can't work, nobody's going to give them a chance. Understandably so. Sometimes you're like, well, killed somebody, probably not going to let you come work here. But then they don't get a chance. Well, where do they end up? Going right back to the gang, right back to the, you know, the slinging the drugs and all that other stuff. So it's this vicious cycle, you know. And obviously, I've met people in my years. We had a guy on the podcast that I told you about last night, the Kevin who kicks, Justin, that has overcome those things and come out of 8 to 10 years in prison. He didn't kill anybody, but he was selling crack. Yeah. So you know, on those kind of things, and then I think that prison should be reserved for people who do violent crimes. You know, I don't think you should go to prison if you evaded your taxes for 10 years. You know, you look at the Chris Lee Knows Best people. I got to meet them a couple times. Super nice family. They're in prison now for 12 years, I think it was. Now they'll probably get it down to 5 or 6, but they're in there because they owe $20-something million in taxes. But when you put them in prison, now we got to pay $60,000 a year plus to keep them in there, and they're not able to pay any taxes. And then they get out. You know, and are they going to be able to even make the money to pay the taxes anyway? So why would you not say, hey, you're really good at business and you've evaded taxes for this long. So now we're going to stay on you and we're going to take our taxes, you know, which taxes are a sore subject with me sometimes. But, you know, why would you not keep them out there in the world working as opposed to putting them in prison? You know, why would you put a guy that got caught with weed a few times or whatever, even if he got caught with harder drugs, if he wasn't out there selling it to kids or hurting anybody, like, let's help that person get better, as opposed to put them in prison or take their entire life away, you know. And maybe that, you know, maybe they don't ever get better. I don't know, but I'd rather try to see somebody get better than to condemn them forever, unless they, you know, you rape, you murder, you do something out of cold blood, you know, whatever. I understand that, but you got to have proof that they actually did it. There was a football player a few years ago, and he got accused of rape, and he spent 6 years in prison. And after 6 years, the woman came forward and said, "You know what? I lied. I was regretful of what I did."
No.
Yeah, you remember that? He was like a high-end prospect to go to the NFL.
Stop it.
And come back after 6 years and said she lied
God.
about it. That, you know, she had a boyfriend and she had cheated on him and she didn't want to own up to it and all this. She got nothing.
Stop it.
After 6 years, he got out.
No.
I think he got like $400,000, which was nothing. His minimum in the NFL would have been, what, $800,000?
Oh my God.
So yeah, it was a tough thing for me to listen to that and be like, no, she should have to go serve.
I agree.
6 years in jail. She took 6 years away from that guy's life. So I think in cases like that, it wasn't a violent crime that she did, but she took a guy's, you know, life away from him for 6 years. So, anyways, I don't want to get too far onto that subject because we'll be talking about that all night, because I have a lot of feelings about it, because, you know, I've been through it and I've watched, you know, people's lives that
stolen away.
Well, I mean, they should have gotten in trouble for the things they did.
Of course.
But there should be a redemption of like, no, I came back and I've done better.
Right.
I haven't been in trouble again. I haven't done this. You know, I should be able to have a right to vote, or I should be able to have a firearm to protect my house. You know, because just because you got in trouble for drugs, you know, I was in 7th grade, so 20 years ago, maybe, I don't know, whatever it's been now, 30 years ago. Yeah, I guess oh my gosh, how old am I? Holy crap, it was like 26 years ago. But yeah, that my mom committed that crime, but here she is still not allowed to have a gun in the house. And, you know, she's a little 60-year-old woman living in the middle of the woods by herself, you know. Mm. So somebody comes to break in or whatever, you know. I'm not saying she... No.
Yeah,
right.
really.
But
you're talking about her like Little Red Riding Hood. Yeah. Yes, my mother's in the woods.
Yeah, she is. She lives in a trailer in the middle of the woods.
She's in the woods, and the wolf is coming out. Yes. I've been feeling this podcast is really taking on a whole new...
In a world torn by fear,
can I talk in my southern accent now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I've lanced a while. That was actually one of my favorite characters to play. I loved it. It's dark. She's a bit of a mess, but she's amazing. Streetcar Named Desire. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love it. All right, let's keep this thing going. So, you're in town. You're recording some new music. Finally, we've been waiting for it. We're getting some of it.
Yes,
which is awesome. I was saying before that we started the podcast that I was listening to your music last night on the way home from our dinner with my wife, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I love this. It'd be perfect for my body pump class." Which is a big old compliment.
It's a very, very big compliment, and especially the song that she was choosing that she wanted.
It's called "Naked."
And yes, we're just going to leave that one alone.
She already told us she loves to be naked.
You know, I'm going to just, because I will get myself into some quicksand.
Yeah.
I have a very dirty
See, I love being naked too, but everybody else is against it for some reason. I don't know why. So.
Bigg Vinny.
But let's talk about this guy over here. You're in the studio. You're recording music, and you're working with this guy over here who is a phenomenal producer. And I want to make sure you know. I don't want to not give you the true credit you deserve, but I would love for you to talk and kind of give like your 2-minute bio, because I want people to know this is a big deal that y'all two are in the studio together going to create some magic. So I want them to know about Keith.
How do you think I feel? Do you want me to start shaking? Do you want me to start like, do you want that to start?
Please. Well, first of all, thank you for letting me tag along today. This is great. And getting to work with her is like, you know, I feel like I've known you for 20 years already.
Me too.
And you were so great last night, dude. I was like genuinely blown away. So we need to talk about that. Well, you know, look, I am so grateful and blessed. I started, Ronnie Milsap moved me to Nashville in '79. I wrote 2 songs that I thought sounded like him, so I called the venue where he was playing in Atlanta, which where I was living, and I got to talk to his brother-in-law, and he said, "Yeah, just send your demo up to Rob Galworth in Nashville." And so I did. I did a little demo. I sent it up. Forgot about it. About 3 months later, I get a call from Rob. He said, "Hey man, I threw your cassette in the trash, but something made me take it out and listen to it." And he said, "I love these songs. Can you come do demos?" Wow. And so I did. I drove up that weekend. While I was doing the demos, he said, "We're starting a publishing company. Would you be our first staff writer?" And that's how I got to Nashville. So it's amazing. I worked for him for Ronnie for about, I guess, a year and a half, and then I went.
So did Ronnie cut the songs?
He did.
Which songs were they?
Still in Love with You, and It's a Beautiful Thing. They're on the Millsap Magic album. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so I got to tell this part of it. Rob and I have kept in touch all these years. I mean, that was '79, and now they've trusted me with doing a documentary on Ronnie's life.
Wow.
How it came full circle around. I just got chills. But I mean, you know what I'm saying?
That makes me so happy because whenever I first moved to town, I started going to Music Mafia, and Ronnie Millsap would be there a lot of times, and his son Todd, I think it was Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Did Todd pass away?
He did. Yeah.
Todd passed away, but I met Todd, got to meet Ronnie a couple of times, and I wasn't super familiar. I just knew he was a big star whenever I was a kid. I'm like, dude, this guy was a huge star,
Right.
And as I got to hearing more of his story, that I'm not going to give away a bunch of it now because I want to make sure I know facts, but I'm sure you're going to get to tell a bunch of it. There was a lot of craziness that happened in that world.
Nobody knows his story.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. And even stuff that after I did the first initial interview, found out more stuff that I didn't know, and was just like, okay, the public needs to know about this. So
there was a lot of stuff, and Todd would be talking, and Todd was kind of a part of here, so I'd be like, is what he's saying true? Okay, is this real? And then whenever Ronnie found out some of the stuff that was going on that he didn't know because he's blind,
right?
Then when he found out something, he was, wait a second, I don't want to be part of that, So I'm eager to hear the whole story.
Well, one of my favorite stories is him getting pulled over by police for he was driving. So we'd have somebody down that was in the back seat that was giving him directions: turn left, turn right, turn. I mean, the police pulled him over. He had his glasses on, but the police never knew he was blind.
Wow!
Just stuff like that, that you don't think. Oh, it's crazy. But so I wrote for him for a year and a half. Went over to Word Records for I guess about 6 or 7 years. And that was where I really learned. Well, I learned to produce with Ronnie because Ronnie would be on the road and he'd give me a studio. Ground Star Laboratory was like the studio in Nashville to be. It's like, so I would spend 12 hours a day while he was on the road just being in the studio. And then I went over to Word for about seven years and ended up with like 21 number ones while I was there, I guess. And then I started my own company, signed BB&CC over to Sparrow, which they ended up doing a deal with Capitol and had a good run with them up until 1990, I guess it was. And that's when Amy and I got together on Baby Baby.
That's awesome.
And then, everybody that's made records in the 90s always reflects back on that. Those were the crazy years. Those were the crazy money years,
Yeah.
It's like I was at Sony for maybe 11 years, 12 years as a songwriter and a producer. But, you can see what the budgets are right now. I went from $125,000 a song to whatever it is right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's
$1,500.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You can get a little bit bigger budget than that when you get to the bigger places. But I was on Average Joe's was my second record deal. Great record label. I mean, these guys worked their butts off, but you had $1,500 to go in there and make it happen.
Wow.
Per song.
Crazy.
And we would go in there. Of course, Butter was producing, so we weren't paying a producer and things like that. But
right.
It's like, you go in there and you just bootstrap it together and make it happen. I mean, there was overdub sessions were going on in Butter's house. Vocal sessions took place in Butter's house. We had those little cone things that you basically put around the mic. You had no vocal
right.
booth.
Wow.
But the records turned out great. With all the tools that are there now with Pro Tools and everything, I mean, the difference that it takes to make a record is...
Well, I was going to say, back in the day, and I was so blessed, I got to work with great artists like Whitney Houston, Amy Grant, Vanessa Williams, Barbra Streisand, all these different people. But I had a thing called the Synclavier. Most people don't know what a Synclavier is, but it was like the first digital workstation. And it was like $125,000, you know?
Wow.
And so now you can buy Logic for $200 and it kills it. I mean, they can't even compete, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
I know, and technology. And so I've always been kind of first to adopt the technology at the time. So I had the first 3348. I did Save the Best for Last on the first 3348 in Nashville, and so fast forward all these years, I keep up with what's going on. So I have a new company now that we're working. It's called Sanctuary Media Labs, and we're working on immersive technology for and anxiety. It's music therapy, basically, in conjunction with our friends over at Houston Methodist. And we've actually gone to Houston Methodist and done fMRI testing. So I went to Jackson Hole and I shot a bunch of VR stuff for headsets for the Oculus at the time. Because Oculus is, I think there are I think there are like 8 million headsets out there on Oculus. And the VR, AI, AR stuff is just now we're beginning to take off. But so I shot all that stuff, came back, and a friend of mine had invited me out there, and she said, well, you need to meet my friend Todd over at Houston Methodist. So I connected with him. We went out there, and we did some testing. And basically the music that I took out there, we had 2 volunteer patients. And they created a cassette that had all the noise and stuff and trying to create anxiety. And then they would play the music. And we were actually watching real time what the music was doing to the brain. And so we got the test results last week. And I'm telling you, it's so cool to watch. But there was one piece in particular. There's a thing called the default mode network. And that was established, I think, back in 2012. But that is the perfect relaxed state for the brain, and there's an actual a photo of that, but this piece of music put this patient in that default mode network, and I was really proud of that. I'm going,
awesome.
Okay, my rate just went up.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I've seen it, and the visuals and what you've done and what you've created. Yeah. It's such a beautiful world that you've really because you can feel it's gamifying a situation, but it's so beautiful and picturesque, and you can see that you get sent on this wonderful journey, and then how the music evokes, because it's a very mind, body, soul. So, have you spent any time in planetariums?
No, I have not.
Okay. So there's 1,500 planetariums in the U.S. Shocking. The Vanderbilt Museum has a planetarium, which is amazing. But it's so sensory on every level. You feel you're having like this visceral reaction. And that's what I experienced when I put on your headset.
Well, I hesitate saying that because when I was a kid in high school, we went to the Science Center in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it is a planetarium. So that was one of my favorite things I remember about high school,
But that's what you've done. That's
kind of the same thing, So I'm fascinated by VR, and now there's scientific proof that all this works, especially with spatial audio, what it does with the waveforms. Yeah. And so it's a startup, but it's actually we're seeing the doors flying open right now. And so excited about imagine, for instance, a kid that's in a hospital that they can put on a headset and they can be at Disney and they can experience the sounds. They're
not allowed to leave the walls of St. Jude, but now they can go to Disney and see it and experience.
Do you know where we went today? Actually, speaking of, is the Vanderbilt Children's Cancer Ward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they are doing, and we were talking about this, what they're doing and what Seacrest has actually done to promote and giving this multimedia studio. And these music therapy, just exactly what you're doing.
Up in Cincinnati?
Here.
Oh, they have one here too.
One here.
Oh, wow.
It's the main headquarters are actually here.
That's awesome.
You should go.
I would love to go there.
I will make the introduction
for
you.
I would love to.
You would do, yes.
But one of the things that was so beautiful to watch today is how and when, just to follow on what you're saying and what you're building, is that these music therapists, they're helping young kids to learn an instrument, to actually write. And then from their writing, what Seacrest has built for them is actually that they end up being able to play their songs. And the songs then circulate to all of the rooms of all the kids in the hospital. And then it goes to all the other 12 hospitals around the country. And so it's this interactive, multimedia, wonderful world. So to add in his music therapy there would be so amazing, because you're giving now the kids the visuals to be there. And we actually have an ed tech side to our company too.
That's so huge.
It's all giving back. It's amazing.
Such a beautiful thing, because when you think about music, I mean, I think people take it for granted. Try watching a movie.
Without music.
Try watching Rocky without the music.
There isn't.
It's a completely different movie. Now, I'm a huge fan of Sylvester Stallone's. Like, if I could meet one person in the world and spend a day with him, it'd be Sylvester Stallone. Like, he's my one guy. And I think he wrote a terrific script. But the guy he brought on to do the music, he knew how important it was. And I can't think of the guy's name right now, but it was what he did for those movies and the way he put those symphonic, whatever you call it, symphony type parts together. But then even down to calling, the lead singer of Survivor to do the Eye of the Tiger, and normally he's like, normally I wouldn't call it the Eye of the Tiger if he told me to call it the Eye of the Tiger, but this time I did. But those songs made those movies. When you think about any kind of movie that, when you want to be in suspense and they put that music in the background and you feel way more as if it was just like, okay, there's a dinosaur walking up, but it didn't have the, if it didn't, Jaws, look at Jaws, So those things are huge, but I also think there's a song by Chris Stapleton called it's called "What Are You Listening To?"
Yep.
And one of the things I think out of that song, is like he's wanting to figure out where his girl's at. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you missing me? Kind of thing. But when I listened to that song, one of the things that hit me was, I think so often people become what they constantly put inside their head.
Mm.
And for me, for a long time, I would get in and I'd listen to thrasher music in the gym, rock stuff, because I wanted to get pumped up, you know.
Right.
And I love rock music, so I'm I love it. But when I took that out, my anxiety went away. When I took out the da 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 da, like crazy, my anxiety went away. I got more calm. I started listening to more peaceful music. A lot of classical music I would listen to. I started listening to a ton of motivational speaking that would have really nice sounds behind it and things like that. And I think when you put in your headphones in your little ears and you cut off everything else in the world around you and you listen to things that are going to tell you to do bad things or whatever, I think your mind starts thinking, well, that's going to be fun. I think I want to do that. And it's been interesting to see. I know that 50 Cent, we got to meet him. Well, I didn't get to meet him. Jared got to meet him. But he has a program that he's putting together now, and a lot of his music that he's creating now is taking out a lot of the gang banging stuff, and it's cool to do drugs and that kind of thing, because he doesn't want the kids to think that's what makes you a great life.
50 Cent also has a media company too, and they're doing a lot of, speaking of I would say content in regards to death row and things like that, and he's really helping to kind of bring awareness in a different way. So
I think he saw the effect it has on the kids, especially from the black culture and inner city and stuff like that, of like, hey, it's good to gang bang and it's how you get ahead and all that kind of stuff. Same thing in the country music world. If everything you listen to is drinking and going out and partying all the time, tend to make you want to go drink and party all the time.
Right.
So I think just when we look at the things that we're listening to, the things we're putting in our head, and I'm not saying there's not a time and place for everything, because we want to all go out and have a good time.
Right.
But what are you constantly sitting there listening to all the time? What are you putting in your brain? Are you putting in good stuff that's telling you, hey, go be a good person,
soul food,
help each other? You think about the diet, what you put in your body. They say you are what you eat, and I think that's true not just in what you put in your body food wise, but what you put in your brain. If you're constantly feeding yourself with, hey, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to make it, I'm worthy, I'm great. The way you talk to yourself on a daily basis. When you talk to yourself, you're listening. We talked about that whenever I was on the panel with you.
Yep.
When you talk to yourself, you're listening. So if you constantly tell yourself and look in the mirror like, I'm so fat and I'm ugly, I can't stand the way I look. If you keep saying that to yourself, your mind hears that just like they'll hear a song, and it tells you, yeah, that's what you are.
Sure.
But if every day you wake up like, I'm going to have to go out here and I'm going to slay today. It doesn't mean that you're already in perfect shape. It doesn't mean that you got everything right. But if you wake up with the mentality of, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to slay it. I'm going to do great things today. I'm going to help somebody. If I see a chance at a random act of kindness to go help somebody, whether it's a lady crossing the street or somebody stuck on the side of the road with a flat tire, like if you have that in your mindset, you're a lot more likely to actually stop and help and do something, as opposed to if you wake up like, well, the whole world's against me. Well, I feel bad for them, but oh well, I got crap going on myself. I just think there's a lot in what we can all do to help each other if we just set politics aside. And I'm a Jesus guy, I always will be a Jesus guy, but I would help a person that was Muslim on the side of the road just as quick as I'd help a Christian on the side of the road.
Right.
And I think that's what makes you a good person overall, is like, I'm here because I want to do something, random act of kindness. Not, hey, let me check this out. Now, before I help you, you believe in Jesus Christ? Okay, well, I'm going to help you then. But if they said no, I'd be like, oh, man, well, I can't help you then, I guess, unless you want to believe in Jesus. Now, if you want to believe in Jesus, I'll help you. But not until you believe in Jesus. Oh, you don't want to believe in Jesus now because I didn't help you? Oh, well, too bad. That's a lost soul, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not ever trying to change somebody's religion, but you might be the only Bible somebody ever reads,
Dude.
That's what you got to live it. So anyways, off that, back to this music thing you're doing. So how far along are y'all in this process? Where are we sitting at now to when the kids can get it in their
We're in the
eyes?
developing process right now of writing code and software and creating content for that. We're creating a music library also in conjunction with this, because the music side of it is obviously what to us is what it's about. But anytime you marry music with a visual, it changes. It's just like, so now we're going back to Houston and do anywhere from 5 to 15 patients with a visual side of things, and we're going to test that. But I will say, one of the fascinating studies out there that we saw was all the rooms at Houston have iPads in their rooms, and so they have music playlists. But they have these patients that are on medication, obviously, and they will come ask for their meds, and they say, well, have you listened to your top 10 list today? And they said, well, go listen to that and come back, and if you still need the medication, we'll give it to you. But amazing how many people do not want the meds after they've listened to their top 10
That's so
playlists.
awesome.
When you say the meds, is this like
Medication.
anxiety meds?
Yes.
Antidepressants
Yeah.
or things
Yeah.
like that.
Gotcha.
But also for us, and obviously we're trying to create visuals that relate to so many different people. But it's like if somebody's getting cancer treatment or dialysis, you put this headset on, and I don't know if you've had an Oculus on your head or not, but it's a trip. I mean, it's like.
Mm-hmm.
It takes you away. You're in a completely different place. It's
Yeah.
3D.
I've never
It's
done that.
immersive. Oh my gosh! Well,
It's fantastic.
before I leave town,
Yeah.
we have to do that.
Well, you're moving back to town too, so.
I am
But
too.
before you leave, it's
Before-
a date.
Wait, I want to come.
Yeah.
You're in.
Yeah, but I'm not here. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So but it just changes everything when you put that headset on. It's just amazing, and I think it's the Apple Vision Pro's coming this. Well, it's already out, so that's a game changer. Much like the flip phone versus the iPhone. That's what it's going to do for VR.
That's awesome. And I think. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, you see the TikTok videos and stuff of people with the headsets on, and let's say they're walking a tightrope, and while the Oculus is on, they fall off said tightrope,
Right.
and they literally fall.
Right.
Now, they
Yeah.
fall onto the ground in this room, let's say if you're doing it in this room, but it's so real
It is so real.
True.
that their body reacts to it in real time in real life. It's the strangest thing.
Right. I had 2 VR parties at my house, my studio, maybe 7 years ago, I guess. And I videoed everybody, and it's the funniest thing because there was one where you're standing on the ledge on a New York. People were really afraid that we're going to fall off.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got it all on camera, so it's pretty fascinating.
That's so fascinating to me. I mean, I think I'm eager to try it because I feel like my mind would be like, nah, bro, you're in this room. Just walk. But
Well, there is a spacewalk that you can do, and it made me so sick because it's
oh wow,
yeah. I mean,
I'm so excited to try this.
Yeah.
Hey, just don't run into a wall.
Yeah, I'll
Don't
take
give
the
him
wall
anything.
out. Hey, listen, I've seen the funny videos where a guy's doing like a sword fight, and all of a sudden, wow, he smacks somebody right
Exactly.
across the jaws or knocks over a bookshelf in his room, or
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, and where we're going now, I've been really hard on. I don't want to say hard on my kids, but I never wanted to hand my kids an iPad and say, hey, we're at dinner. Go over there and do this. Don't be part of the conversation. So whenever I first started going out with friends after I had kids, I would sit there and, tell my son, like, hey, you have to let them talk, and I've taught him that. So he knows now. At 6 years old, he's a little different than he was at, 1, 2, 3. My 3-year-old's I can't control her. She's a wildfire, and she's caught flames everywhere she goes. But she's awesome.
Wait, at 1 you're teaching your son about sitting and talking? This is good.
This no.
This is, he's like,
This is-
table manners.
This is no
and
joke.
just-
This kid said "I love you" when he was 5 months old.
Stop
I
it.
have it on video.
Stop
5 months
it.
old. He goes, "I love you," and he looks right
No.
at his mom, not at me.
Yeah.
But he did say "mama" first too. I couldn't win nothing with this. But my baby girl, Dada,
Oh,
Daddy.
Oh,
You gotta love
God.
that.
She
Come on.
she
He
loves
just
it.
melted in,
I know, I
in front
was
of
gonna
our
say,
eyes.
look
at
Just
Oh,
melted.
hey, listen. This is no joke. I don't know if it'd be considered sexist or what it is, but like my son, when I'm sitting there correcting him, hey boy, you better step your butt in line. He's like, yes sir, Dad. My little girl, yeah, she's throwing the biggest temper tantrum in the world. I'm like, oh, babe, come here, babe. Let me take care of you. What's wrong? Now, Mama's the other way. She's like, hey, that's enough of that,
Right.
And but with me, she'll give me them little little eyes, and I'll just be like, okay, babe, take it easy. She's only 3. She's like, you were saying that when she was 1. I'll be saying it when she's 33.
yeah. No kidding.
So
This is amazing.
I have the
This
same
is
thing.
fantastic.
I have a
This
female.
is too much. I can't take it.
I have a female Italian Greyhound, and that's how I treat her. She's like my baby.
the little baby.
Yeah, she's just.
It's weird, and of course I always thought, I grew up in a very hardcore household.
Sure.
My stepdad was a psycho and beat the crap out of me pretty much every day, and my brothers. Now, I would never ever hurt my kid. Never. Just not going to happen. I've learned, the things that were put into me as a kid. There's this mind of like this militant, like you got to do this, you got to be on. with my boy, it's still that same way. Now, I don't beat him or nothing. I don't even really give him spankings, but whenever I talk to him, I want him to stand up and listen and, all that. And with my little girl, it's different. However, my son, when you're sitting there and if I go, yes, sir.
Wow, really? You just snap like that?
Snap my finger and he'll stop.
I'm scared too.
With my daughter?
Did you feel that? Did you feel that?
I felt a little twinge.
You feel it, right? I was thinking,
my daughter, I'll be like,
oh, okay, which is, oh my
like,
God.
What?
This is crazy. It's amazing. Oh my God.
But yeah, so I mean, like, I'm learning a lot as that. But, music, back to this music thing, because it's important, I think. Oh, no, I was saying I didn't let them have iPads and all this other kind of stuff because I didn't want them to be the kids that were sitting there constantly, doing all that. So I do, look at this thing as, man, this is going to be a beautiful thing that's going to help so many people. And I hope that people utilize it for the right things. Because I think anytime you have something great and beautiful, like the iPad, I think was a phenomenal tool for schools. Sure. Now you don't have to buy 50, physical books that you have to keep stored in these, places that you've taken down. Instead you got 50 iPads that you have 5,000 books on. So I think it was a beautiful thing. And now for us creatives that create some of those books and stuff, it's a little different, obviously. But people are going to utilize this technology in some ways for pornographic reasons. They're going to utilize the technology for controlling people, things like that. I know that's not in any way what y'all are trying to do with it. Y'all are doing something great. But that's always been my worry as we continue to gain more and more technology is there's going to be the people that use it for good, like what you're doing, and then there's going to be the people that use it for bad.
Sure.
And it's unfortunate that a lot of times the light gets shined on the bad side of things.
Right.
So I want to make sure that that's the reason. One of the things on this podcast is we want to shine a light on the good parts of everything. I mean, we've had people on here from all different walks of life. Had a Marine on here a couple months ago that, he's a wholehearted believer in marijuana, THC, because it's helped him literally cope with life after, I think he had 14 or 15 confirmed kills and,
wow.
went through a lot of stuff, saw a lot of, crazy action. We had another guy on here was a Green Beret and then went on to be in Special Forces and having worked for the CIA, I think, for a little while. So
he is now over the Sentinel Foundation, Matt Murphy.
Oh, yeah.
He started Operation Light Shine. So their main focus is sex trafficking.
Wow.
Young kids.
Right.
Wow.
So they have partnered with CIA, with all the three-letter agencies pretty much, and local agencies to have authority to go pretty much anywhere in the world to rescue kids that have been sex trafficked.
Wow.
It's amazing.
That's amazing.
They had this technology. There was a little girl missing for 72 hours in Texas, I think.
In Texas, yeah.
They couldn't find her. They had no clue. They were completely out of leads, everything else. And they called Matt, and they went through their technology that they have, and within 25 minutes, they located the girl and rescued her.
Stop
Get
it.
out.
25 minutes.
That's amazing. Really?
So they're partnered with Tim Tebow Foundation.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, it's a serious operation, but I don't know. I'll ask him, so we might have to edit this out. But the head of the operations is here in Williamson County.
That's amazing.
Wow.
The and the other thing with it is, I mean, he was a victim of this. His sister was taken and brutally murdered by the cartel, I think, or that's the thought process.
Yeah, thought process. Yeah,
we don't know for sure, but he was a Green Beret. He was putting together a task force, buddy. He was about to wage war at the border.
Yeah, he was overseas.
Yeah,
as Green Beret, planning out dropping bombs on whoever bombs needed to be dropped on, and they called him out to let him know his 14-year-old sister was missing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So he came home and fell into a really big depression because he's such a dangerous man from a Green Beret standpoint.
Right.
Yeah.
And found himself in a situation where he couldn't help his own sister.
Yeah.
God.
And after a bout of depression and drinking and reacting, I guess you could say, and coping, he decided to put that energy into helping
and finding
that
her.
often happens. Yeah,
they couldn't find her for months. And
it took 3 months to find her.
He kind of helped pinpoint where she might be based off of everything from the last cell phone use to who she was calling to, and then put together the plan and found her. And then it was, he was ready to go. He was stopped by, I want to say the Homeland Security or something like that, and they took him in and said, hey, before you go and do this and become a vigilante and have to go to prison and all this other stuff, let's come in and create something together. Let's utilize your special forces guys. Let's utilize your, the technologies that you're already working with and do this the legal way so that, none of y'all are getting in trouble. So anyway,
It's
I got us
amazing.
far off on a tangent,
just-
but it's the story is really cool.
No,
so.
it's amazing. Bigg Vinny, would you ever think about, on our site, we have this ed tech side of the company. So, for instance, whether it's a Marvel artist, whether it's a Nicole Miller fashion designer, different from a masterclass, we actually help to kind of really construct these Muse Masters to build their own courses, and it's both live and on demand. And at the end of each course, there's a give back. So the Marvel artist will critique someone's portfolio gallery, or the director will bring someone on set. So it's really a way of building for young kids about internship and job opportunities, which I think, for me, like I didn't have a lot of mentors growing up at all, especially in music. You know, being a young artist, I was signed to Sanctuary, and it was very challenging, like being in London, like trying to find my way. And so for me, I think that mentorship can change the child's trajectory, it just would be an honor to do that with you.
Oh,
and
I would be all for it. You know,
okay, that would be wonderful.
The number one thing when people ask me like, "What do you want to do?" is like, I want to help kids. I want to help kids realize that you don't have to be what you were born into. You don't have to be the mistake you made. You know, you don't have to be the mistake that somebody else made.
Sure.
But you can be something better. And I always say you're worth the things you're willing to work for. Because I don't ever want anybody to think that, oh yeah, if I just all of a sudden switch my mentality, everything's going to go great. Like, nah, you switch your mentality, then you got to put in the work.
Right.
But the mentality is what's going to keep you doing the work, is what's going to keep you doing the right things so that you can move forward and build a better life. And I want to work with kids. You know what I discovered, though, over this past month of starting to learn about speaking, being a speaker, and telling, putting my story out there, which I got to do with you, is every one of those kids grow up to become adults, if they live long enough.
Sure.
And they still carry that childhood trauma with them. So every one of us are really just big kids that went through that trauma, that's trapped inside of a 40,
Right.
50, 60-year-old body now. But you still, it's like you never get rid of the things that happened to you when you were a kid. You're never going to forget them. You're never going to outlive them. But you can learn to cope with them, and you can learn to use them as fuel to help you create better things, and then go back and help the other younger generation as well.
Well, it's an interesting thing today, and talking with the Vanderbilt Children's Ward, one of the things when I was really asking is there's something that is a common factor that each one of these kids live with, right? When they're coming in and they're starting their music therapy, do you find something that you really identify with? And she said, actually, more so that what we try to do is we're creating all the visuals and all of the music that actually help them to, in their memories, it's not the memories of going and actually having chemo. It's not the memories that they had of writing that song, right? So it's creating, taking something that's such an awful experience to go through and then neutralizing it or humanizing it and giving it a whole new world. And it's managed to really change. So to your point there, like I think that there's actually ways we can overcome trauma as a child and help to shift that paradigm no matter where or what you were in, and actually create a new memory around it. I do. I really believe. I'm not a parent. I don't know if, I hope in my lifetime I am, but that's from what I'm seeing and understanding parents, I think that it's a really beautiful thing about being able to manifest that and change.
Yeah.
When you become a parent, I'm just warning you this ahead of time, you open yourself up to the possibility of the greatest pain in the world. And when you think about God sending Jesus to die on the cross, he had to openly say to the entire world, like, hey, I'm willing to send my son to be brutally beaten and sacrificed so that his blood can be spilled, so that y'all can all be forgiven for all the stuff you're going to do, the things you have done, and the things you will do. I can honestly say, as much as I love Jeff and you and Keith now and Brad, if they're like, hey, if you don't send your son to be brutally beat by the cat o' nine tails, to have nails shoved in through his wrists or hands, however you interpret it, to wear a crown of thorns and to have all these, spit in his face, plucked his beard, all these things they did to him, and then hung on the cross. And if you're not willing to do that, all these people are going to go burn in hell for eternity. I'd be like, I'm sorry, guys. I couldn't do it. I couldn't send my son to do that. So you open yourself up to the possibility that you might lose that kid one day. And hopefully that never happens. I mean, I think that's the worst pain you could ever endure.
I can't even imagine.
To go through that.
Oh my God.
But that also showed, because I have that feeling now, because I have these two kids that I'm like, I brought y'all into this world. Now I also know exactly how it must have felt for God to say, I'm going to give this to y'all. I'm going to let this happen. He's going to feel every bit of this pain, and even turned away from it. You know, whenever he's in the middle of it, had to turn away from him. I couldn't do that for nobody. Yeah. And so it really lets us know the love of God that's put there, you know, for us, because, you know, if that ever happened to me, if I lost one of mine, I would just be devastated. And I've had friends, there was a country artist named Granger Smith about 3-4 years ago, right before COVID. Kid got into the pool, you know, 3-year-old, ended up drowning. And I remember sitting in Wisconsin on my hotel bed, you know, looked down at my phone and the news came up, and I just started bawling because my son was 3 years old, same age as his son at the time. And it just wrecked me. And I'm like, this is the greatest, I'm going to start crying right now. It's the greatest pain you could ever feel. There's nothing that would hurt you worse than that. So anyways, I don't want to get too heavy, but we just got really heavy. I want to make sure that we can make sure everybody finds y'all, because I know we're getting close to the end of this, and we could talk for, I mean, obviously, we need to have y'all on every time
have y'all back. Yeah.
Yes.
But I want to make sure everybody knows where to find you at, and where's your music, where's your, you know, if the charities you're working with, is there just one place that they can find you, or do they need to know a couple? But you go.
You go. So please, to all you amazing creatives, come to sohomuse.com, SOHOMUSE.com. Hey. And for my music, go to YouTube, Consuelo Costin. There's some very fun videos on there. And Spotify, which we're just about to start launching. And I have actually a purse line that's coming out.
Oh,
nice.
Mother's Day, very exciting.
Got a feeling this is going to cost me some money for the old wife.
That's right, exactly.
My wife's like, do we know what the line's called yet? Can we reveal that?
We cannot. No. Okay.
No revealing.
No revealing, but
just know it's going to be one of those deals where one of these days your wife's going to walk up to you and say, "Honey, for Christmas, I'd really like to have one of those
Consuelos.
Consuelos.
Consuelito bags."
Yeah. And then they're going to say, "But baby, that purse is $6,000. Yeah, but it's worth $7,000.
And we can help you to get discounts.
See, there you go.
And there you go. And then to anyone, please, coming to New York, the Vanderbilt Museum and Planetarium, and something that as I said, I'm on the board and I support this museum, and it's my family, great-great-grandfather's.
Have you ever ran the Pink Floyd laser show through that planetarium?
No, but we should.
You should. My mom used to go to the one in Dixon, Tennessee, the big sphere thing. And they'd go in there and watch the laser show. It was incredible. Wow. Keith?
KeithThomas.com. And one thing we didn't talk about is I helped build a library for Facebook starting back in 2017, I guess it was. But so if you're on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Reels, if you type in Keith Thomas, all these tracks come up. You can use it for free. And I just put up 134 tracks, I guess, on Spotify.
Oh, wow.
The Meta Collection, Keith Thomas.
Wow.
So you can see the music that I've created for them there.
That's incredible.
Awesome.
Well, y'all, if you're watching this podcast, come on, back to me. If you're watching this podcast, I want you to know one thing. I want you to go out and like, share, follow, give us 5 stars, give us 5.5 stars, give us 200 stars if you can. Tell all your friends about us. And if I don't see you before it rains, then piss on you. No, I'm just kidding. No, I want you to come out and have a good time with us. This is going to be an incredible episode. If you just got to this far, then you've heard the whole entire episode, and you know how much you learned today, all the things that are coming in the future, and how your life is going to change for the better. I'm Bigg Vinny. It's my boy Jeff Suter.
Hey.
And this is the Refined Life Podcast. We're out.
Nice.
Y'all are
so good.
So good, buddy.
Wow.
Fantastic.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah.